Welcome to Freed on Business. He grew up in South Florida, has been in business here since the early 90s, and has closed over $3 billion in deals. He's seen it all. He always has an opinion, and he's always ready to share it. Informed, entertaining, and connected, he has his finger on the pulse of South Florida's business community. He's Jim Freed, and this is Freed on Business.
Welcome to today's show. I've worked a lifetime to be able to have the credibility and the honor to have our two guests today. We've got Casey Conway, the world famous Red Shoe Economist, and my good friend Wendy Kraft, who's basically the straw that stirs the drink in the family office space. So without further ado, we're going to take a really quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about why everybody wants to be a Gator. And Casey's going to tell us, and then Wendy's going to see if it all holds true. Mr. Mendoza. Hey, are you looking to buy or lease a car? Well, if you are, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry, Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar up at 151st and Biscayne in their tremendous facility. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audi. Down in the Keys, they sell all their great nameplates. What do all those cars have in common? Well, they're all great cars, and they come with a Warren Henry advantage. That's a suite of services that you get when you buy your car. It includes everything from key replacement. They'll replace those $100 keys if you lose them, all the way down to the best price guarantee and the 72-hour exchange. You can take 3 days to make sure you like your car. Guess what? You will. Join me, my friends, my beautiful wife, Vivian, my mom. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry.
It's time to stop the hate and spread some love. You are beautiful, you're smart, you are awesome, and you never have to change for anybody. You have the voice and you have the power. We are so much stronger when we come together. It's your choice, so choose to be inspired. Choose to be accepting, be strong, be brave, be awesome, be daring, be kind. Choose kindness.
You know, that commercial is sort of the theme of the way that I do business. My personal brand is that I self-actualize by helping other people achieve their dreams and goals. Give me a call, reach out to me, DM me. I'm doing all kinds of really spectacular things in the commercial real estate world. Pref equity, mezzanine financing, stretch construction loans, joint venture equity, all kinds of tremendous capital, even permanent loans and bridge loans on land. Call me if I can help you realize your real estate dream. Reach out to me, direct message me. Why? Because whenever you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
All right, we've got a really special show for you today. We've got Casey Conway, the Red Shoe Economist, and Wendy Kraft, who's the Chief of Staff of Fulcrum Equities. Welcome both to the show. Wendy is one of the premier people in the international family office business, and Casey is one of the preeminent real estate economists. He sits on the board of one of the big REITs. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm going to let Casey kind of set up what he sees going on, and then Wendy and I are going to ask some questions, and hopefully Wendy will slip in a little comment about how you can really meet people in a family office, because it ain't so easy. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Great to
Hey
be
there,
here.
Jim.
Now, Casey, Bloodbath for the Democrats earlier this week. We won't really talk about that or what the impact on the economy is. We do want to talk about in general what our theme is, which is why everybody should be a Gator or realistically a person that lives in Florida, works in Florida. Casey, why Florida?
So it's been investing a long time in really a great diversified economy and its infrastructure. Start with its ports. You got more ports and harbors than anybody in the country. That's why you can get supply chain. You've been building infrastructure, whether it's, the Bright Line, to bring, from Miami all the way to Orlando, eventually going to Tampa. You've got good common sense stuff. You don't overtax people. People want to come down here. They're moving out of the Northeast and moving down here into the Florida market. Things work, and it's a very diversified economy. It's not one dimensional. It's not just tourism. It's not just Disney. Look at the reinvention of the Space Coast. We shut down the space shuttle program, and they thought it was the end of the Space Coast. And look where we are now. You're front and center for private space industry. So you got all the right pieces. The Inland Empire of Florida in Central Florida on I-4. Education, great institutions. I think they teach some kids at University of Florida, don't they, Jim? I think they do good. And when they graduate, they give them formal red shoes to wear at graduation. So these are my formal red shoes. But it's just got all the pieces together, whether you look at economics, taxation, and then when you put it all together, go look at the latest census report. Florida is one of the top 5 states where the population have moved. 14.6% population growth in the last decade. I mean, how do you match that?
It's tremendous. Now, Wendy, first of all, welcome to the show. I know that you direct a lot of investment, that you coach a lot of people on where to look. What is the feeling in the family office world about the state of Florida? And again, thank you for being here today.
You're very welcome. I know a lot of family offices that have relocated to Florida during the pandemic because it was easier to do business down there than in other places. I've had an awful lot of friends who work for family offices up here, been given permission to live in Florida and still work for the family office up here. So that's new for us. Yeah. A lot of people like the taxation rules. So that's pretty exciting to them, no state taxation. I think, we've seen a lot of states make plays for family office, started with the Dakotas. Tennessee has now thrown their hat into the pot, trying to reform some of their trust laws. And I think a lot of folks are waiting to see if Florida is going to follow suit. Are they going to make some substantial changes that really affect family offices, trusts, estates, that kind of thing that make the families feel welcoming, in particular, some of the private trust company laws. So a lot of people have already started going down there. A lot of great conferences are held down there and events are held down there. And we're kind of waiting to see if the legal, if you will, the government regulation will follow suit to make the families really welcome.
Wow, I'd like to really hear more about what you guys are going to want to see in the regulation and rule changes, because I'd really like to advocate that. Casey, so now we know for a fact that the wealth management industry is moving down to Florida for all the right reasons. Are they an anomaly?
So, no, I think you got a few states. I paired Texas with it. And before the 2020 elections, I spoke, as you know, Jim, in 2019, the fall of 2019. I said, there's this little event coming up called the 2020 elections. And if they don't go very well, the U.S. might have its own form of Brexit. And I came up with a term with it. I called it Flexit. Florida and Texas just exit. And when you look at Florida and Texas and some of the southern states, they really get it right. They understand this is about, first of all, you've got to have good, security and safety, and you don't throw all the police out. The police are our friends. They do a lot of good. There's always one or two bad apples in every barrel of anything in our economy or whatnot. But I sure wouldn't want to function without our police and our first responders. Number two, you look at, the basics, get the hell out of the way for business doing business, help them do business, don't hurt it. So Florida does a great job. You got a great governor that does a lot of the blocking and tackling and making it streamlined to do business. And then number three, a great place to live, and you create the workforce that everybody needs. So it's affordable. It's not difficult to start a business. You got everybody leaving not only the Northeast, but heck, California, you got gym companies and everybody else is packing up and coming in there. So it's got all the pieces. But if you look generally in the in the Gulf states, you look at Texas all the way over. I mean, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, the Carolinas, they get it. And Florida kind of leads on that side. There's no negative check marks. Not in my book.
Now, Wendy, a lot of investment and income around the globe has been impacted, excuse me, by supply chain constraints. Have any of your families had their investments or businesses impacted by the supply chain constraints? And what have they done to address that? That's a softball to KC because he'll have some feedback on that for sure.
Wow, I only have a few minutes here, Jim. Yes, I mean, of course, yes, everybody's been impacted, and a lot of the major families in the world still own businesses. You know, contrary to what some people think, they don't make a pile of money and then just sit back on a yacht. Most of them have ongoing businesses. They have next gens involved in those. And depending on what the business is, there have been some effects. But I will say one of the nice things that we saw during the pandemic, a couple of nice things, and Casey, you're welcome to jump in on that. But we saw a lot of family foundations do a pivot, which really did my heart well. You know, they might have been into education, they might have been into camp. Everybody just pivoted in 2020 and said, wow, how can I get PPE to my local hospital? Do kids need computers? I'll send them. What can I do with who I know to help the situation? And I personally think people can disagree with me all they want. I think the whole situation would have been a heck of a lot worse if those families hadn't stepped up and donated the dollars and the connections and the times. It didn't have to. They did it because it was the right thing to do. And sometimes our space gets slammed, but that was just joyful to me to see all the families coming together to help out where they could. And the second thing that fell out of COVID for the family office space, well, two things, is there were a lot of families, as you know, because you and I have talked about this, Jim, that never touched venture, right? Ooh, venture investing, scary, scary stuff. You know? And all of a sudden, it kind of lost that because families said, oh, wow, I want to put some money toward the vaccine. Or, oh, wow, I want to relocate. All of a sudden, all these businesses didn't have buckets and didn't have names. It was just things that needed to be done. And quite a few families ended up doing venture without realizing that's what they were doing. And the third thing I really think came out of it for us, even though supply chain is still strained, is that families who never invested outside of US or outside of their geographic area in US, and this goes back to why some families are moving to other states, they used to be very tied to their geographic area. Either that was where the wealth was made in Philadelphia or Boston or New York, or that's what they knew. And all of a sudden, Zoom kind of made everything okay. It's like, oh, I don't have to go there. I can, you know, I'm on Zoom. I can manage things there. So we saw a lot of families take that first toe in the water outside of their geographical regions for investment. So it's been sad what has happened, but it's been also revitalizing to the family office space is the best way I can put it.
Yeah, I mean, I ran into some high net worth investors that put tens of millions of dollars plus towards the research and development of the vaccine, and no one knows about that. And it's very important that they pulled along. It really is wonderful impact investing. Casey, what have you seen there?
So I love Wendy's comments, and I would say, you know, what she really highlighted was they really redefined ESG. Instead of environmental, social governance, they defined it to essentially do some good. And that's what they've done. They stepped out of their normal space and their comfort zone. And they said, you know, there's a bigger picture, bigger issues here. And when you have states like Florida that encourage that, they create the economic climate where you can do that. But I love that kind of message from you, Wendy, that essentially do some good. And you won't see the mainstream media, except for maybe you, Jim, really cover that or prevent that story.
No, that's not usually covered. It's usually the wicked families. And it was just, that's when I was saying it did my heart good, because they didn't do it for fame. They didn't do it for publicity. They just quietly did the right thing. And I mean, Democrats, Republicans, independents, apolitical people, all just came together. Yeah, Americans, and came together and said, how can we help and did it. And for those of you that weren't in New York in March of 2020, it was terrible. It was scary. It was depressing. People were just crying. I mean, I can't even describe. It was kind of like after 9/11, and it was horrific. And to see so many families just step up, and I knew what was going on because I talked to them, but it wasn't in the press, and they just did what had to be done, and that gave me a whole bunch of faith in the sustainability of the family office space, quite frankly.
That's tremendous. Now, I want to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. And I want to talk a little bit about infrastructure, onshoring, nearshoring, friendshoring, all kinds of shoring. And Casey will tell us a little bit about the dynamics, and then I'm sure that Wendy will tell us a little bit about the production aspects. Back after this, Mr. Mendoza, tossing it to you. All right, everybody. I was just sitting there texting one of my high net worth investors who's watching the show right now and got a question we'll ask Wendy in just a couple of minutes. Remember, our sponsors from Warren Henry have been with us since 2013. When you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry. Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar at their gorgeous showroom up at 151st and Biscayne. When you go there, tell my good friend at Service May Stark you said hi. If you need an Audi, they've got them up in Gainesville. Down in the Keys, all the nameplates. I may go down there and get a Jeep this winter. I'm really excited about that. Doesn't matter. When you buy any of these great cars, you get the Warren Henry Advantage. It's a long list of great services they provide. It includes key replacement. If you lose those $100 keys, they'll replace them. They'll help you polish up your wheels. If you kiss the curb, they'll make sure you're getting a great price. And if you don't like your car, you got 72 hours to return it. Guess what? No one ever does that. They love their cars. So join me, my mom, my beautiful, lovely, loving wife, Vivian, and all my friends. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry.
This is Becca Carlson from Carlson Integrated. You know, a lot of our clients find that they can do anything, but not really everything. We are always excited to jump in and help. So whether you need another set of hands for a project or even comprehensive marketing management, our team of marketing mavens would love to have a conversation with you to see if we are the right fit. We do everything from logo and design work to email outreach and social media to writing and thought leadership. And here's a fun one. We are now offering our fabulous ebook of top 10 marketing tips on our website for free. So head over to carlsonintegrated.com and grab a copy today. And please always let us know how we can help. My email is Becca, that's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com. That's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com.
Tremendous. She helps a lot of my clients put together their marketing work too. She's been the head of the Illinois commercial realtors brokers up there for a long time in Chicago. She's tremendous. Thank you so much for all you do for the show and my clients, Rebecca Carlson. Hey, and if I can help, reach out to me. I'm doing all kinds of real estate debt equity deals, pref equity, mezz equity, stretch construction loans. You need over 90% construction financing for your condo. I can help you. A condo construction project, I can help you. I was just talking to somebody about one. They need a $150 million bridge loan for it. I'm working on one for 75 right now. So give me a call if I can help. Reach out. The reason that you should do that is because when you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freedom Business. Connect with us us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
All right, we're back with two of my really good friends, and I'm so pleased that they get a chance to meet today on the show. I'm sure they're going to connect after this and do a lot of great things together. We've got KC Conway. He's the Red Shoe Economist. He's the head economist for the CCIM. When KC talks, my friends listen. And we've got Wendy Kraft. Wendy is the chief of staff for Fulcrum Equities. Wendy is the straw that stirs the drink in the family office space. If you want to know about family office, Wendy's been there. She knows all the good people, and everybody's connected, and it all comes together at Wendy. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Now, we were talking a little bit about infrastructure, KC. We talked about that Florida is a place to be. Tell me what's going on in Florida from an infrastructure standpoint and how it relates to what we're hearing in the popular press, onshoring, nearshoring, friendshoring, they call it down here.
So, we hear in the media how screwed up it is on the West Coast. They can't get containers in. They can't get ships unloaded. Don't think I hear much about that in Florida. Port Everglades is working great. The equivalent of the Florida Inland Empire on I-4 between Tampa and Orlando. Phenomenal logistics activity. You've got public transportation movement with the Bright Line coming all the way up to Orlando into Tampa. You're doing great on adaptive reuse, even on, think of it, pedestrian infrastructure, the underline, now fully funded. The first 10 miles, it's reconnecting what interstates divided. You look at the Space Coast, and re-engaging. We're all going to space and going to do all kinds of things up there again, even though the space shuttle program ended. You've got all your great ports. You put them all together and they handle more containers than ports of Georgia and South Carolina combined. You got so many of them. So the infrastructure pieces are there. You've invested in it. You've been smart. I always used to tell people in Orlando, I'd always get told off in Orlando. You made the rest of the world pay for that damn roads or whatever there. But you figured out how to pay for this stuff, not go into debt. You have a governor that's very conscious on the fiscal issues, pay down the debt, get things going. And when you look at where companies want to invest, if you go to siteselection.com, one of my favorite resources that does an annual state of the states, and they give 5 or 6 key metrics. And one of the top 5 is fiscal situation. And Florida's always up there, very, very strong on its fiscal situation. And that's where business, that's where capital, that's where population, they want to go. They want to start with a solid fiscal foundation. And then 2, they want to have all the diversity in terms of not just the population, but the business, whether it's space, whether it's office, whether it's industrial, logistics, tourism. You have all of those pieces. It's hard to replicate that anywhere else in the country. And so it's not just, roads and bridges, but it's every other bit of infrastructure.
Yeah. I was just on the phone with a family that I work with that has a port terminal in Tampa, and they just bought a brand new crane. They bought it all cash. They didn't want to deal with the financing aspects. So that's what's going on. Wendy, do you work with some families that are involved in infrastructure, ports, transportation? What are their thoughts?
There are families involved in that. There's a few big families that have that in their portfolio and some that created their wealth from it. It's not new. I would say that, I don't want to get in trouble on your show, when Amazon started buying up the ports, the family that owns a duty-free shop was fighting for ports. And we had this whole thing where maybe 10 years ago, everybody was still looking for their commercial buildings. And now everybody I talk to on the real estate, oh, hey, do you know of any warehouse space? So and I'm like, yeah, because you're the first person that asked that in the last couple of years. Right. So because of the online situation, which became much more during COVID, there are so many of these competing companies hunting for warehouse space and port space and inns and connections and friends. I'm not saying it's funny, but it was like a big nothing burger 10 years ago. And now whenever anybody talks real estate, it's not the big building in downtown. It's, hey, warehouse. Anybody here have any warehouses? So it's been kind of fun to watch. And I think, I think a lot of the families are much more aware of it, in tune with it. And in some cases, trying to get involved with that, refrigerated storage space, all different things that kind of relate to that. A lot of interest in it.
I was with the family office yesterday, and in the past, they'd only wanted to invest in multifamily, and now they're doing industrial, and they even bought they'll call it a cash flowing land bank office building out in West Dade. So I think that the families that I know are finding that it's more difficult to find their core typical investment, and so they're broadening their horizons. Casey, thoughts?
No, absolutely. And I'll give you a couple ones. I published a paper in May on adaptive reuse, and we focused on South Florida. And the paper basically says South Florida is kind of the quintessential example of what I consider adaptive reuse 2.0, which is the neighborhood approach. Look at Doral, look at Coral Gables, look at projects like Wynwood, look at the new town of Cutler Bay, which was the old Cutler Ridge Mall. So this is good ESG as well. So Florida is really pioneering. You reuse something, you don't tear it down and then have to have all this new concrete emissions and stuff. And it works very well. And a lot of the businesses like that. They want something different that's unique, like their identity. Another one, we have a housing affordability problem, and it's not just in New York and California, but it's everywhere. It's in Alabama, it's in Florida, it's in Georgia. And so you have a great example. There's a large company, American Homes for Rent, in the Orlando market. They have subdivisions where all the homes are for rent, totaling over 3,000 units. You want to guess how many empty units they have? About five or six. That's just move in, move out. And so the young workforce, the millennials, they have student loan debt. They don't have a credit score where it needs to be. They don't have the income for a down payment. And so where do they find the housing affordability? And so Florida's working on that. And when people come from New York or Philadelphia or elsewhere in the country where it's very expensive, they're finding, while you may feel it's expensive, it's relatively affordable for the rest of the country. And when you don't have a big income tax to burden onto that, you can maybe afford to pay the toll road or the Florida Sun Pass. So lots of neat opportunities, I think. Suburban office, I just wrote a new paper on office. And one of the things we're finding is that, well, everybody's lamenting office, and the urban office is down about 4% for the year. A lot of sublet. If you look at suburban office, it's up about 12% in value. And so people don't want to maybe have the full downtown commute. And so Florida gives you a lot of options in a lot of communities. So I think, there's not a property type that's really off the mark. Even retail, complete renovation, rejuvenation, adaptive reuse. There's not another state that can really say, look at all of our different commercial real estate property types are holding up and actually rejuvenating here post-COVID.
Now, like I was saying earlier, I've seen a lot of these families go outside their core acquisition asset type and format. Wendy, are you seeing that too?
Yeah, that's kind of something I was alluding to earlier. Pardon me, that we didn't really see before COVID, and more because they weren't saying, wow, we have to bring somebody in and go into pharma. They just like, oh, I'm just going to donate, or I'm just going to write an investment check for this. And then they realized they were doing pharma and venture and private equity without the names of the buckets. And so I think it's really opened it up, and it's brought the patriarchs and matriarchs a little closer to the next gens, at least from what we've seen, without having to use just traditional philanthropy.
Well, that's something that really is interesting, bringing the two different generations together, because sometimes, I don't want to say they're diametrically opposed, but there's the people. Well, we'll talk about that. We talk about that after the break, Wendy, a little bit about how you see some tension between the different generations and how that goes away. I'd like to amplify on that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to talk a little bit more family office and a little bit less economics. We'll talk what Wendy's seeing in the trends within the family office itself. We'll also talk a little bit about how to make sure you're connecting with the right person at the family office. And we'll keep Casey here because he's got some great insights on some of the economic things that we'll be dancing around. Mr. Mendoza, tossing it to you. Everybody, when you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry. Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar up at their beautiful store on 151st and Biscayne. Or if you're in Gainesville and want an Audi, or just want an Audi and are willing to go to Gainesville, they've got their store in Gainesville that sells Audis. I really love that Audi sports car and all their new stuff. It's really tremendous. Want a Jeep or something else? Go down to the Keys. Their store in Key West, well, they've got all the great cars. What do they all have in common? Well, like I said, they're all great cars, but they also come with the Warren Henry advantage. That means you get complimentary key replacement in case you lose your keys. That means that they'll guarantee you the best price offer for your car. That means that they'll even buy the car back from you after 3 days if you don't like it. That's right. You can return the car after 3 days if you don't like it. Guess what? It never happens because people love those cars. I know I do. I've had one since the 90s, early 90s. So join me, my mom, my beautiful wife, Vivian. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. That's like 30 years. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry.
It's time to stop the hate and spread some love. You are beautiful, you're smart, you are awesome, and you never have to change for anybody. You have the voice and you have the power. We are so much stronger when we come together. It's your choice, so choose to be inspired. Choose to be accepting, be strong, be brave, be awesome, be daring, be kind. Choose kindness.
You know, we've been running that PSA for quite some time, and I got to tell you, one of the reasons we do it is because that's so on brand for us. Hey, if I can help you with real estate, just reach out. I help some of South Florida's most preeminent families in the real estate business on a consistent basis. A lot of times I introduce them to each other because the families love working together, and then we go do deals. If you'd like to access the family office space in real estate, just reach out to me. I also got all the institutions as well. I've been at it for 35 plus years. When I call them, they know I really mean business, usually your business. So reach out to me, DM me, call me. You know how to reach me, Jim Freed. Why would you do that? Because whenever you do that, whenever you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
All right, we are here today, and I must say that one of my favorite, two of my favorite people, three if you include Mr. Mendoza, Egan Mendoza. Three of my people are here with me today, my favorites. We've got Casey Conway, one of the smartest, sharpest, most insightful economists on the real estate end that there is. We've got my good friend, Wendy Kraft. Wendy's the chief of staff of Fulcrum Equities, fancy title. Wendy's the straw that stirs the drink on a lot of family office stuff. If you want to know family office, Wendy knows. We're going to go back to Wendy right now because we wanted to ask her a couple of questions about accessing families, making sure we're talking to the right person at the families working together. Wendy, here's a pitch right over the plate. That's for you, Casey, baseball analogy. Wendy, hit it out of the park. How do people meet the families? How do they meet the real person?
Sorry, the shoe came up.
I'm done. Wendy, it's yours. You're up. I'm done asking the question. I can move my camera now.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the question? There's a shoe.
Oh, come on now. The question was, how do people know that they're really accessing a family office and accessing the family itself rather than some person that's puffing?
That is a 3-hour discussion, and I'm happy to do that with you, Jim. But I will give you some pointers and some red flags. Basically, it depends. Everybody's so busy meeting a family office and asking them how much they're worth. And that's sort of irrelevant, right? It doesn't matter how much they're worth. They could be worth $7 billion and they might not want to invest with you. So it doesn't matter what they're worth. And it's a silly kind of offensive question to a family office. What you really need to do is talk to them, find out what generation they're on. I'll tell you right now, if you're a second gen, there's probably 60 to 70% chance that you have no authority to allocate investment dollars or limited authority on your own behalf. If you're a third generation, there may be some infighting with the family as they sort it out. If I say, who are you? And you're, oh, I'm a fourth generation family member. Super. I'll bet you have an investment committee. And it doesn't really matter what you want. I need to get to the investment committee. So first of all, I always tell people, do a little research. If I'm going to pick on venture since we talked about it. If your investment is venture and the family is 98% allocated into real estate, they're probably not going to be a fit for you. But what we see instead is people coming up, no research, having no idea who anybody is, and saying, why don't you tell me all about you? I don't know you. Why would I do that? And then they decide, they go, well, and I've actually had people say this, tell me all about it and I'll decide if you're a fit for us. I'm not trying to be snotty, but maybe you ought to tell me what your investment is and I'll tell you if you're a fit for us. So there's a little disconnect there with the families and the hedge funds and mutual funds and PE and everything else that are trying to get to the families. I will also say that there are conferences are divided up with the families. You will see family office real estate conferences. If you're doing real estate primarily, that's where you want to go. Cavendish does, med tech and biotech investing. So if you want to invest in pharma and angel like that, you go there. There's other conferences just for alternatives, conferences for PEs that families are at. So depending on why you need to meet a family, based on what you're selling or what service you have, I would recommend going to conferences where the families that need those services and investments are, as opposed to just any conference. That's step number one. Step number two, meet them, talk to them like a human. Don't go, oh, hey, Casey, you're in real estate. Will you write me a check? You're like, who are you? Yeah, here's my card. Write me a check. You're never going to meet somebody at a conference, or very rarely, who you talk to for 2 hours is going to write you $1 million check, right? If you think that's going to happen, tell me where it is. I'd love to know. But you really need to get to know the families. They're not institutional grade investors, right? They're people. And I always say that they're human beings like you. You have to get to know them. There's a trust factor. So if you're going to make an investment in the family office space to get investors from that space, you need to be out there. You know, you have to economically be sound about how you approach it. You have to meet the families and you have to keep showing up. They're not interested in somebody who swoops in, they meet them for 2 hours, and then they bug them on the phone for 6 months asking for $10 million. It doesn't really work that way. It's a much more intimate kind of investing. And I will tell you this, for those of you out there going, wow, why would this be worth it? Institutions, if they don't like your returns, they're gone. Families, they'll stick with you for 30 years, through thick and thin, through recession and good times, and they'll still be there and they'll tell their friends about you. So the investment is worth it. The dollars are typically less than you'll get from an institutional side, but the loyalty, the ability to keep going into fund after fund is there. And, you know, eventually the families will have more wealth than a lot of the institutions, and we're already seeing that lately. Does that help?
I wanted to say one last thing that you touched on that I think is a corollary. They like to do things together in packs. They ask each other. It's just like friends. People want to do business with people they like.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You just see that in a regular real estate deal. I'm sure Casey has too. There's certain people that like to do deals together, even if they're not family offices. And there's certain people like, I'm not doing it with him. Not because of money, but because of personality conflicts. You know, they just have their folks they like to do it with.
Casey, that Wendy really made a good point that I'd like you to opine on. What have you seen from a balancing and funds flow perspective, institutions versus family offices? And, family office is really a concept that's new from a terminology standpoint in the last 5 to 7 years, but it's been around forever.
Yeah, no, so I think Wendy makes some great points there. So most of us have been burned by our institutions, particularly our banks and whatnot. They're there when things are hot. And then when things get difficult, they bail on you and they go to the literal letter of the agreement where, you know, uh, private family investment money, family office money, they tend to build on that relationship. They'll tend to be there, be more patient. They'll work through a deal. If you're honest and open with them, I find they would rather work. And we're going into a cycle now where I think that equity or that non-institutional capital is going to be very important. We have a Fed FOMC meeting today, and they're going to blow it up again. They have no clue. They keep changing the terms and the goal line, and now it's going to be transitory longer for inflation. Look, this is like the 1970s, and you're going to need a lot more equity, and you're going to need a lot more trust and patience in investors in a deal, because over the next few years, we're going to have more bumps in the road. It's 14-15% year over year construction cost increases on commercial real estate. That includes just moving a tenant. So if you got an existing building and you got to re-TI it, it's up 15-20%. The banks aren't going to be there with you. They're going to want to stick you with the cost overrun deals. They're going to, you're going to be dealing with young, constant turnover. The people that were in their 50s and 60s were all pretty much gone from the banking world. We're there through the last cycle. Your family relationships and institutional stuff, you've got generations there that have been through it. And there may be granddad or dad that's there to help the younger generation understand, here's what's going on. Here's what this means. It's not a con game. Here's how we work through. Here's how we structure. So I think Wendy's exactly right. The pendulum is swinging in her favor, in her clients and her family's favor, because that's the capital that will have what's called staying power. And
I
so
think the most important.
power.
I stepped on you, Casey. Say it again, please.
No, I said we're going into a cycle now where you're going to need staying power. And like Wendy said, the trusted relationship. I'll give you a quick example. My dad was the land guy that started Vail, Colorado. And so the two ranchers that he put together, he hunted with them, he fished with them, he put up hay in the fall, over many years. And when it came time to finally bring it together, he had the relationship with other family members. One of them was his law partner, which was married to a lady by the name of Penny Tweedy. She was the person that owned the racehorse secretariat. Wealthy Kentucky family. What in the world is she doing out in Colorado? She said, okay, I trust you guys. I'll give you $100,000, but I have two conditions. I want a gondola. I don't want to freeze on a chairlift. And I want it to be a pedestrian Swiss Alpine village. But that took years to build that relationship, years of investing time. When I talk to my younger students or people that are coming along, I say, here's what you want to do. If you want to get to know people that are in equity or family office capital, go find where they do their philanthropy. Let's say it's a Habitat for Humanity, and they go in that market or that area that they're in, and they work on a habitat build. And you spend 3 to 7 days on a job site swinging a hammer with a guy that's worth $1 billion, and you get to ask him questions and talk to him, and he respects how you're working hard. When you roll your sleeves up and invest yourself in the things that they care about, guess what? They have an open mind to at least give you an opening or work with someone, like Wendy to introduce you. So invest the time.
Wendy, softball? Well, how was that?
No, I mean, Casey and I firmly agree on this. Family offices are a relationship business, and you're not going to, I can't tell you how many young kids I see that just got their MBA. I call them newly minted, and they're in their, navy jackets and khaki pants, and they show up and they're all, coming into the conference, and they're like, who are you? Who are you? Are you somebody I need to know? We're like, go away, and they just have no idea how to deal with the families. And then since that attitude doesn't work out, then they're like, oh, families are terrible. We hate them. And they walk off. And it's like, just take the time. Forget that they're families. They're people. To Casey's point, they're people. Talk to them like people. Deal with them like people. And treat them like your friend. And if they need help with something that doesn't happen to be writing you a check, but you're able to help them. Build the bond. It's a real good investment of time.
Sorry, I stepped on you too, Wendy. So you were saying that it's great to make the personal investment up front because it'll pay dividends over the years.
Absolutely.
It's just like everything. My personal brand is that I self-actualize by helping other people achieve their dreams and goals. Great words. Now go look at my social media stream or my historic track record on that. Look at the way we play that PSA about being a kind person, I got to say, look at the people that are on the show today. Some of the kindest, most wonderful people that have opened themselves up to me. When I first met them, they were the big power brokers in the room, and I was nervous to go up to meet them, but we became friends. We shared ups and downs and slings and arrows and hard times and good times. And I know that they're going to be there for me forever. So we're going to go to a break while I gather myself after saying that. You know, I want to thank Regan Mendoza for all of the production work. All these wonderful production features, they're all Regan Mendoza. He's the one that helps me project my image of professionalism and competence, and it's really important to me. And I want to start this by saying thank you to Mr. Mendoza. I also want to thank our friends at Warren Henry. They've been with us since 2013. I guess we sell a couple of cars for them, and they're tremendous vehicles. But more than that, they're tremendous people. They always talk about being a member of the Warren Henry family. And whenever I go to their store, I feel wonderful. That's another multi-generational family. That's the third generation. And Larry's sitting there making his grandfather and his dad proud and making the community a better place. So when you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you should check out Warren Henry. Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. They're all great cars. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audi. Down in the Keys, they sell them all. And then I read the real list of benefits that's all material. This time, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about the stuff that's not tangible, the stuff that you feel when you go there. We've been talking about it with the families and the family offices. When you go there, they'll bring you in and they'll make you feel comfortable. You won't feel bad at all. My mom, for goodness sakes, there's nobody tougher than her, and they got her into a car too. So join me, my mom, my beautiful wife, Vivian, lots and lots of my friends, more every day. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best service, always the best price, always Warren Henry.
Carlson from Carlson Integrated. You know, a lot of our clients find that they can do anything, but not really everything. We are always excited to jump in and help. So whether you need another set of hands for a project or even comprehensive marketing management, our team of marketing mavens would love to have a conversation with you to see if we are the right fit. We do everything from logo and design work to email outreach and social media to writing and thought leadership. And here's a fun one. We are now offering our fabulous ebook of top 10 marketing tips on our website for free. So head over to carlsonintegrated.com and grab a copy today. And please always let us know how we can help. My email is Becca, that's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com. That's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com.
Jim Freed, and my personal brand is that I self-actualize by helping other people achieve their dreams and goals. You call BS on that. What does that really mean? I'll tell you. I was on the phone yesterday, or actually a couple of days ago, with a son of one of my clients. The son really didn't know where he was going or what he was going to do or how he was going to get ahead. I asked him what he wanted to do. I asked him to send me a letter that asked to be introduced to the person that he wanted to meet. He sent me that letter, and they'll be talking on the phone on Monday. So when you're talking about working with family offices and high net worth families, I just showed you how to do it. And I did that out of love and kindness, not because I expect anything back in return. If I had expected something back in return, you would have been able to tell on my phone calls that I had made in support of the young man, and I wouldn't have been successful in getting him his discussion with the senior person at the firm he wanted to meet. I do that in real estate. I do that in life. Reach out to me if I can help you. Remember, I'll say it again. My brand is that I self-actualize by helping other people achieve their dreams and goals. Call me. Let me help you do that with your real estate or with your family's goals. Why? Because when you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. And I'd like to welcome back Casey Conway, the Red Shoe Economist, and Wendy Kraft, the straw that stirs the drink in the international family office business. I wanted to point out something that I've used the last 45 minutes to illustrate, and I've been doing it by asking questions, and the answers drive me to what I'm about to say. It's all about making friends, and then you influence the people. It's about surrounding yourself with experts and not having an ego and listening to the experts. That's what this business is all about. And I brought two of the kindest, most wonderful people onto the show with me because everybody wants to know how to do businesses with high net worth families. And the answer is you be yourself, you be transparent, you be honest, and you bring real value to the table, and they're going to find you. Wendy, how did I do?
Pretty good. Pretty good. They may not find you only if they're isolated. You got to kind of pop your head out a little bit. But if you're yourself, then you never have to worry about being somebody different for each person. And a lot of people run into that in family office. They meet somebody who's iconic or is a household name, and they're, and I know so-and-so, and I'm friends with so.
Right, the person who invented, cleaning fluid or something.
Right, and it gets a little nuts, and it's a little nuts for the families too. If you just yourself and just remember, they're just people like you. They want to do good business, and they want to be treated like you would treat, your best friend, your neighbor, somebody else. You will do very well in family office.
And
high pressure campaigns don't work real well.
I stepped on you. She said high pressure campaigns don't work well. That's right. It's I have all kinds of analogies, but Casey, you've had experience advising everybody from the governors to, Fred Smith at FedEx to the big guys at the REITs. How do you see the high net worth, high power, high profile people that you work with? How do they interact with you, the most successful ones? Because you're the expert they're calling.
So Wendy's spot on. And you are too, Jim. This is a relationship business. If you don't invest time in building the relationship, you have no chance at the business side of it. And so every one of them I look at, half time I don't know a big shot. I mean, I'll tell you that I'm on the board, independent director for one of the largest, most successful industrial REITs, Monmouth. And for years, I'd been talking about ports and logistics and my golden triangle. And they were in audiences at conferences. And they finally, the CEO came up to me and, was talking to me and asked me a couple of questions. I didn't know how big a deal he was. But I always treat everyone that comes up with a question genuinely. Whether it's, I have, restaurant staff that come up and ask me a question. I treat them the same way as somebody that comes up to me at a conference because I never know, where it's going to go. Plus, I was just brought up by my dad to treat everybody with respect, regardless of the level. So I invest the time. It turns out we built a relationship. Next thing I know, he says, here's my company. I'd like you to come down and speak to our board of directors and our family. And they had a couple of other REITs. And so I presented to them, and next thing I know, they invite me to be part of their board of directors and the whole thing. And it was just treating somebody that had a couple of questions over a couple of conferences, genuinely and give them the time. I always take time to respond, on emails. I tell people if I don't respond right away, I get 450 emails and another 400 texts a day. The secret recipe involving top 90. I give them my code. I sit down every night at 10:30 until about 1 o'clock in the morning. And any subject line that starts with top 90 and then their need, I try to make sure I respond to those that day, or I let them know my challenge, or that I'm just a 4-person company. But I invest the time. I'll discover the philanthropy that they're involved with or causes that I'm involved with. People that want to get with me, I let them know my causes. I have special needs children's, and places like St. Jude's Hospital have been very gracious and helpful to my family. I'll let people know that, and people that then want to work at that relationship, they involve in that philanthropy, they spend time to get to know me. I want to then build a relationship or help them a little bit further. And so Wendy's right. You've got to spend the time. These are real people. They put their pants or dress or shoes on just like we do every morning. But they're inundated with, people that are inquiring that don't know whether they're legit or not legit and just want a fast, quick deal. And, the private wealth departments at banks think, they own and control them and can ask them for anything. That's not where they do business. They seek somebody out like Wendy to help guide them through that process to develop the relationships. It's a relationship business. Invest in it. You're not going to get a deal the first year. You got to put the time in.
I love you so much, Casey.
Me too. I'm a fan.
You're such a wonderful person, Casey. And you project it. And I'm going to speak like a person that met you at a conference, because I did. Okay. And granted, I had Todd Jones. I love you, Todd Jones, that introduced us. But Casey, you've always been open and kind with me. And we've shared personal discussions as well. And it pleases me that we've been able to become, I'll say, close friends over the past few years. And I know that I could call on you and you would do anything for me. And that's why I wanted to get you on today with Wendy, because there's a reason that Wendy has ascended to the top of the family office profession. It's because she's kind. Now you're going to laugh. She's kind. She's generous. She's loving. She's caring. And she's really funny too.
Now I'm on the spot.
No, you don't got to be on the spot. This is just a big thank you. We're going to wrap up now, and I'd like everybody to give their thoughts. So I want to start with Wendy. Wendy, I want to thank you. I know that you stopped and slowed down your international globetrotting, Rome and Luxembourg and Paris and England, just to be here today. And I really want to thank you. So I forgot Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. Thank you for coming here today. What's your last thought on just the family office space and the future of the family office space?
It's going to have some challenges, without a doubt. We have a little more tension between upcoming generations and currently controlling generations than we've seen in a long time. We're seeing families all across the globe, not just US, don't take that wrong, that are now firmly committed to having multiple passports because of what COVID did for restricting travel. So that's become a really big deal in our space. And it was for Europe always. It really wasn't for America so much, but now it is, because families felt like they were tied here and couldn't leave for quite a while. So now they want that. We're seeing a lot of interest in ESG. We're seeing space ETFs. I'm excited by the changes. Some people are a little scared, but I think it's going to all shake out in the end.
That's great. Change provides opportunity for some. Am I having double feedback? Change provides double opportunity for people, not just in the change, but in the ability to evolve as themselves. Casey, you're hitting cleanup today, man. It's a pretty big responsibility.
All on you.
Yeah, tell me that red shoe and tell me where the universe is going.
It's all in the red shoes. I have the really flexible Globetrotter ones to go around the globe, Wendy. And
Is that the reunion shoe? That's the original, and the other one's a reunion shoe?
Yeah, these are my formal Elvis red suede shoes. I go to formal dinners and look very classy. Know which side to use my fork and knife and all. But
right.
You can tell, Wendy, you're very genuine in that, the triangulation here is that all three of us know you have to invest. You have to invest time. You have to invest in the relationship. You have to build those. There's no shortcuts in life. And if you do those things, they work out pretty well. And if you treat people where you all kind of at an equal level, whether it's someone in a hospitality space working their butts off so that we can travel, or whether it's some bigwig, if you just approach people with the attitude that every person is really important and they could lead to something very important, you'll be very successful. When my dad died at 84, and the funeral that he had, he'd been out of circulation, been very ill. for a couple of years, but there were over 600 people, and it was every, family or business. It wasn't the work people. It was all the relationships that he had built that were there. And, before he passed away, he said, look, make sure before you go, you have a lot more, you've given more than you've got in your I'm owed column. And that's the way you should go out. And you can see, Wendy, most of these families are very much that. They're very much engaged in philanthropy. They're just not all about, as portrayed in the media and maybe the politicians today, greedy SOBs that want all this money and don't want to pay taxes. They're very genuinely interested in doing good and they're giving back. All of us know that we've benefited because others invested in us. And so when I look at stuff, I look at how can I give back to those that have invested in me. I work a lot with young kids and students that have no clue. They don't know how to build relationships. We don't teach it in business school. We don't teach them how to approach people and to do an investment. And it's not just about running a great Argus cash flow and looking really cool and having the right phrases and having read the right book or whatever. It's just building that relationship. And you can see, Wendy, you're very genuine at that, and the families respond to that. And I think the family offices business is going to become increasingly important. I think we're getting ready to head into a very difficult time where people are going to get more, there's going to be more friction, whether it's geopolitically or whether it's in our own backyard. And that having those trust relationships are going to turn to people like Wendy or you, Jim, to say, who can I turn to? I got a really good project, but I'm in trouble with my debt lender. How do I fix that problem? And people that can fix problems and have relationships are very successful. I could have made a lot more money, but I opted, to basically do more. I have 3 special needs kids that have, they've cost me my first 3 German convertible cars, but I'm very happy to have those 3 kids. And I just take their hoodie off and pretend they're a convertible car. You saw the picture of Luke recently in my restored 67 Mustang, very happy. So thank you, Wendy, for all you do in guiding those families, because they really need somebody they can turn to trust. And if you don't understand why the people like Wendy are successful and why they're out there, or Jim, it's because they've invested the time and built those relationships. Don't abuse them, value them and build them.
I love you, man. Isn't that tremendous, Wendy?
It is. And I have 2 special needs kids as well, Casey. I'm right with you.
I love you guys. I knew the secret, but I wasn't going to tell. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. So, gosh, I'm going to gather myself. I'm going to thank my guests for being truly wonderful people that are really demonstrating how to do business with family offices and how to be successful in life. Thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you so much, Casey. Thank you so much, Mr. Mendoza. I want to thank our sponsors at Warren Henry, the University of Florida Center for Real Estate Studies, the Bergstrom Center. I want to thank Warren Henry, which I did, but I'll do it again. The most important person I want to thank is you, the listener, the viewer, the person that sends me the texts and emails, one of the 1,000+ people that'll watch this on download. Thank you. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you for working with us to make the world a better place. I'll be back next week with another edition of Freedom Business. It's going to be absolutely tremendous. I'm going to talk to a guy that's a world famous best-selling author. We're going to talk about how we met in college. And it's going to be tremendous. We're also going to do some other great things. We're going to bring great energy to the world and great knowledge to you. So remember, tune in and make sure you support us. This is Jim Freed for Freedom Business. We'll be live next Wednesday at noon. We're up on all the different streamings and all the different podcast things. And I want to remind you about this. Remember, the person that wants to do something finds a way. The other finds an excuse. Now go out there and make it happen. God bless you, and God bless you. He really knows how to